Yeah, definitely a tough start. When you look at the fixtures ahead of time and you know that those first three fixtures are going to be extremely challenging, prepare the team as best possible for each opponent. So some of the key reflections from that are trying to put more of an emphasis on us and what we do, and how we put a marker down based on what our standards are. So ultimately, yeah, just a slight change in focus from us to try and emphasise some of the key things that we want to see over the next few weeks.
Of course, you can look at, say, some raw facts like the stats. Across all 4 games that you've played so far, there's 13 goals conceded, only 3 goals scored, no clean sheets. People say stats don't lie.
Yeah, correct. And people have got every right to look at those results and have raised eyebrows based on the standards that the club have set over recent years. But important to emphasise that we are in a process of rebuilding. We are in a process of new manager, new squad, very young squad, very talented squad. We've just got to try and piece the kind of puzzle together, essentially. So, yeah, it's just a matter of looking at that process and what those key kind of markers look like as we do that. It's not as if we haven't been in those games either. With regards to Keynsham, I think we had a real large chunk of that game where we had most dominant possession, I would say. And again, we weren't just able to put the ball in the back of the net, and Keynsham had a couple of chances and converted the one. So that's a bit of a bitter taste in the mouth when you feel as a group that you've dominated. Bournemouth, we knew was going to be a tough game. The players worked exceptionally hard throughout that game, and although the scoreline probably doesn't give our players the accolades that they deserve for that performance, you look at the way that Bournemouth played and they've taken it up to another level as well. So credit to Steve and the job that he's doing there. But ultimately, the fact that they've managed to evolve and we managed to match the scoreline that it was last season, I think that's real credit to the group that we had to roll their sleeves up, grit their teeth, and do all they could to try and get a result, which it ultimately didn't happen. And then Sunday was, for me, ultimately, in key stages in that first half, we were excellent. Some of our possession was brilliant. It was slick, like really good, positive possession. But we still went in 3-2 at the depth, and then we started really slowly in the second half, which can't happen against a team that are full throttle like Swindon. And essentially that's a real lesson learned in terms of game management in key moments of the game, really. So lots of learning that's taken place, but we feel like we're able to regroup and to put those things right within the coming weeks.
When you look at the league as a whole, we've seen it over the last couple of years develop and begin to get more competitive. Do you take that into context as well this season, when you see the landscape of the women's game as a whole, it's changing with the sort of investment that's going into clubs now?
Yeah, massively. And unfortunately, you can start to see small divides within the division with teams that do have that backing. But ultimately, it's the women's game's getting stronger from top to bottom. So all is going to be kind of turning points where the gap between the divisions as it was previously are starting to get much smaller. And even within the division that you're playing in, the gaps have decreased massively. And you look at the quality that's in the league this year, it's going to be tough to go and get 3 points, any points on the board with any team in this league, because it is so competitive. So it's what we're striving for in women's football. So women's football as a whole is getting better, and we just have to make sure that we're prepared for those challenges when we face them.
And of course, you've got a run of games now where they continue to be tough. You welcome Edmonton United this weekend, newly promoted. They've had a bit of a mixed bag of results, but in previous meetings we know how strong and they can be. Are you expecting more of the same from them? Yeah,
definitely, and they've recruited really well this year as well. Dan's done a great job. So yeah, it is going to be tough, and like I've literally just mentioned, all games are going to be tough in this division. That's the beauty of the game growing and getting stronger. So again, we just have to see it as it's another obstacle we've got to try and overcome, and we're doing the best that we can to prepare for that.
And what's the sort of messages going through the team at the moment, and how you sort of galvanising the squad? It's obviously still missing a couple of key players in the likes of Kirsty Whitton and Shannon Siveroy. Do you also know how long they're going to be out for?
So we were very positive to know that Kirsty had her MRI the other day. So we're waiting to hear the outcomes of that, but we're trying to kind of just ensure that there's as much positivity going into that, kind of waiting for the results as possible. But we don't have a time frame for that. But with Shan, we're hoping within the next couple of weeks that she'll be back in full training. So she's worked incredibly hard to get to where she is now, and an absolute credit to her. It's really tough when you get an injury like that, and to know that something as simple as what it was, which was just sort of blocking a cross coming in, but the long-term impact that can have, and yeah, the fact that she's been doing her rehab, the work that Phil's been doing with her has been amazing. We had her joining in a small part of training last week, which was incredible to see her back. It's just now how we kind of make sure that we're up in the stakes for her a little bit, but with no pressure of there's a time frame in place and we need you back. It's when you're right, and when we've got her right, we've got an incredible person, an incredible player in Shannon Siveroy. So look forward to having her back. And
what about the messages going out to the team as a whole in order to sort of stop a habit growing of these defeats?
Yeah, and definitely, and for us, it's just trying to find the balance. So it's emphasising the positives that we're taking from those games, but also ensuring that those non-negotiables are being implemented every time we step on that grass to train and play. Making sure that everyone's abiding by what we're looking to be able to achieve and looking to go in the direction that we're looking for. And there was a great team meeting that took place on Tuesday where a lot of positive things were said, a lot of key points made, and I feel like that's a really good place for us to be able to put a real stamp on the next stage of our progress together as a group. So yeah, we knew it wasn't going to be a quick transition. We knew it could have been quite long and challenging, but anything that's easy, is it worth doing, is the question that I've got. And we look around the group that we've got, the staff, the players, the club infrastructure, the place is set for success. What that looks like in terms of time frame, we'll only tell, but we've got to focus on getting the club results that it deserves to have on the pitch.